Say, oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah. Let's go to 1 Samuel 17 and 50. First Samuel 17:50. Doesn't matter what version. All of them pretty much read pretty much the same way. 1 Samuel 17, the 50th chapter, the 50th verse. It says, so David triumphed over the Philistines with a sling and a stone. Without a sword in his hand, he struck down the Philistine and killed him. Let me read that again. So David triumphed over the Philistines with a sling and a stone. Without a sword in his hand, he struck down the Philistine and killed him. On your way down, look to your neighbor, look him dead in the eye, and say, go with what you know. 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 I pray today that not only is this teaching substantive, but it is salient to your life. But most of all, I pray that it's settling to your soul. Because honestly, we all be honest, we pass the mic, 2024 has been a trip. And I'm sure by now, you have started to reflect and evaluate where events, people, and places fall under the categories of winning and losing. Yeah. You thought about January, February, March. You thought about the summer. You thought about the last quarter. Where did I win and where did I lose? It's an honest question. It's a common question. It's a normal question. But allow me to pause, because I want not to stay so much in 2024. I want to shift you forward. I want to shift you forward and offer you this statement that you can choose 4 ways to live your life. Somebody say 4 ways. 4 ways. 4 ways. You can choose it: wallowing, worrying, whining, or winning. 4 ways. 4 ways you can decide to look at 2024 and decide whether you're going to be wallowing, worrying, whining, or winning. Wallowing, that's something where you stayed in something too long. And the danger of wallowing, because oftentimes by the time you finally decide to get up, you stayed in it so long, it's real hard to live without the residue of what you stayed in. Turn to your neighbor and say, stop wallowing. Wallowing, wallowing, wallowing. And then there's worrying. There's worrying. There's worrying when we worry about things that we can't change. We worry about, and the stress about worrying that comes on us, that we decide to put on us. Somebody say decide. We decide to put worrying because it's really a stress that comes from a possibility of something that has never happened. It may happen or it may not. But we worry and carry the weight of it regardless. Wallowing, and then there's worrying, and then there's whining. Yeah, most times when we're whining over something or somebody that oftentimes is not whining about us. Oftentimes, it is because we are so invested in the future of it or them that you don't realize you're more invested than they are. I'm preaching already. I don't know what whining. And then there's winning. It is regardless of what's happening. I've decided to win in spite of. And one thing that hinders us in life is that we choose to live in places that is opposite of what God has desired, directs, or designed for us to live. Yeah, we live under an umbrella of chaos when God has called us to recline on the shores of peace. Are you living in a place where God has not called you to live? John 10:10 says, the thief comes, watch this, only to steal, kill, and destroy. But I've come that you might have life and have it to the full. You see two things here. You see Satan and you see the Savior. Look to your neighbor and say, there's a choice. To live under Satan's desires or to live under God's desires for your life. You got to choose. And if you are going to become what God wants you to be spiritually, mentally, and physically, you have to decide that winning is the only option. It's the only option. It's the only thing that's going to happen. And it's not living the other ways. Winning is my way of living. Yeah, we have some, we can go down the list, but I have a couple of my favorites that I had to list what it is, the things that they've done, the things that they said, the things that they think because of their winning streak, their winning personality, their winning mentality. So first I have Kobe. I called Kobe up, and Kobe said, I make 1,000 shots before every practice. He make 1,000 shots before every practice. So I'm confident in my game because I put in the time. Michael Jordan said like this, he says, some people want it to happen. Some wish it would happen, but others make it happen. LeBron James, well, he didn't say anything. I couldn't find no good, great quotes for him. I'm sorry. Paul said, but Paul said, listen, watch this, come back. Paul said this. He says, when I desire to do good, evil was always present. But since he knew that, he goes on in 1 Corinthians 9:27, he said, so I discipline my body like an athlete, training it to do what it should. Otherwise, I fear that after preaching to others, I myself might be disqualified. Family, allow me to pull from Paul's passion in this passage and preach this one-point sermon. And this one-point sermon is, you will reach the optimum level of your spiritual and natural life, watch this, not by trying, but by training. Not by trying, but by training. What's wrong with trying, Pastor? Well, everybody always told me, all you got to do is try. All you got to do is just do something. All you got to do. I'm sorry, I came to tell you 2024, you were blank years old when you found out trying was not enough. Because here it is, the thing about training, think about trying. Trying is just a claim that is only supported by minimal attempts. I tried not to eat sweets this week. I tried to work out about 4 times. Watch this. I tried. I tried to stop eating bacon. Trying is really the lazy man's praise. What are you trying to do? And what are you training to do? What are you training to do? Because trying is a claim, but training is a commitment. Yeah. Training is a commitment, watch this, that is supported by persistent living. Consistent living. I turn on social media, I scroll, and I see Desmond. He's at the gym, and he's at the beach, and then he's at the park, and then and I be like, that man is committed. I'm trying, and he training. What bothers me is we have too many Christians that is living a trying life. We have too many believers that believe that they are only trying. Well, I'm just trying to survive. I'm just trying to make it. I'm just trying to live right. I'm just trying to. And you got to change your language. You got to understand that, no, you're not on a trying field. You're on a training field. You're not trying to be patient. You are training to be patient. You're not trying to put God first. You got to train to put God first. Because trying got too much to do with motivation. Trying got too much to do with how you feel. Training has to do with mentality. This is what you do in spite of what you feel. In spite of what you feel. When you feel like getting a degree, what would you do after the first semester? Do you still feel like it? So what do you do when you don't feel like it? Don't ask. How many people continue to do what you know you need to do even when you don't feel like doing it? How many times did you give up because you didn't feel like doing it today? How many times you promised and made a word to yourself that you was going to do something, and you couldn't even keep the own word to yourself because your feelings was really your feelings mean more than your own word. You will get to where God wants you to be, not by casual attempts, but by consistent living. You have to train. You have to train. You have to train. 2024, you dealt with the bad hand. You dealt with some strange hands. You dealt with some unusual hands. Question is, were you trying or were you training? What you're training, and look back, because we're all going to look back at 2024. I challenge you to look back at 2024 and ask yourself, was this a trying year or was this a training year? And you know, if you was training, if you're able to separate the pain from what it produced. You know it was a trying year, that you realized there was pain, but you realized that it was something that was created and in you that pushed you to be a better person. So you're not holding on to the pain, you're holding on to what it produced. That's when you know whether it was just a trying year or was it a training year. It's not about holding on to the brokenness. It's about what it crushed out of you. Did you hold on to what it crushed out of you? It's not about holding on to the heaviness. It's about the pressure that it pushed through you. There's a case study here in the text where we witness the life of David as he trains in the wilderness, as he trains. Well, I want to say this. Where God puts this unusual person in an unusual situation to get an unusual result. David, God puts him in this unusual person in an unusual situation to get unusual results. Yeah, David, we know David as the great warrior and the great conqueror, but David, watch this, was in the time of the text he was a teenager, and already as a teenager, he was already rejected. He was already overlooked. He was already not invited. He was too young. He was too small. Yet God was in the lessons of his life and was creating this canvas of uncommon results. Have you ever thought about that your unique situation is not a suggestion of Satan's aggravation, but is an indication of God's participation? Have you ever thought that your situation is not a suggestion of Satan's aggravation, but an indication of God's participation? Maybe it's not the devil that is agitating you. Maybe it's not the devil that is shifting things around. Maybe it's not the devil that caused most of your frustration this year. Maybe it's not the devil. Maybe the agitation is coming from God is trying to do a work in you. Maybe the agitation is coming from he's trying to take you to a higher place. Maybe the agitation is coming from he's answering prayers. Because watch this, God will use your prayers as permission to promote you. Let's go. God, the all-creating, loving Father, listens in to your prayer and gets permission to do things in your secret place that you wouldn't necessarily say in your public place. But he gets the permission because you said, God, change my family. You said, God, work a miracle. You said, God, use me like you never used me before. You said, God, I'll go if I have to go by myself. You said, God, I surrender everything that I have. Purify me. Cleanse me. Wash me with hyssop. And God, watch this, promoted you to a position that you asked for in your secret place. Yeah. So God promoted you not just to be an intercessor, but watch this, he promoted you to be the answer. You thought you was just a sibling. You thought you was just the person in your family that kind of always lead the charge and always get things done. You didn't know that you was promoted to the generational curse breaker. You didn't know that he pointed you out to change your family's trajectory. You didn't know. You were just being the bossy, intolerant, fussing at people because of their white elephant gift, telling people they can't bring the mac and cheese. You thought you was just getting things in order, but you was really getting things in order. God has promoted you to be something that you asked for in your secret place. Because you asked for it, and he said, good, I needed somebody to ask, so now you are the answer. Congratulations. You've been promoted to one of his elite employees. That went over some of y'all head, but that's all right. 2024, watch this, did not come in and out to make you desirable. It came to make you different. So he said, be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of our minds. Somebody say different. He didn't come to comfort you. He came to change you. Look to your neighbor, say, I'm different. I'm different. I'm not the same. If we're honest, after the disappointment, I'm not the same. No. After the divorce, I'm not the same. After they lied on me, I'm really not the same. After the layoff, I'm not the same. After the betrayal, I'm not the same. Can we be honest? The things that happened in our life changed us. But can I suggest something? Change is not always a bad thing. Sometimes change is a good thing, because what it is that some situations gave you perspective that you didn't have before. Yeah. Some situations gave you strength you didn't know you even had. Some situations made you stand up to people that you would have never stood up to. Yeah. Change. It's not always bad. Sometimes change is good. David had an unusual result, not because he was desirable. It's because he was different. Goliath was desirable. He was tall. He was strong. He had status. He was a known champion. David wasn't. He was tall. They said it was over 9 feet, 9 inches. David wasn't that. Goliath, he had support. He had the support of a major army, a trained army. David, not so much. The Philistines, they were not trained. They only fought. They fought because God told them to fight. They wasn't training all year. But Goliath, the Philistines, that's what they did. David, not so much. Goliath had steel. It said his armor was over 125 pounds. But because of the steel work that was going on, the Philistines dominated the steel industry, so that left the Israelites without steel. So Goliath had steel, David didn't. Goliath was desirable, but David was different. One of the things that we got to understand about David, 3 things. The first thing, that he had a different speech. He had a different speech. We go to the text. It said David, he was coming to this battle scene. He came to the battle scene, and it took him, first of all, he got up in the morning. His father says, hey, listen, your brothers are out there fighting today. They're fighting the Philistines. I need you to go there and make sure they have some food. Remind you, David was anointed to be king. He's in the wilderness. His father tells him, I need you to go to where your brothers are. They are fighting a battle for us. Go and give them food. David gets up with the urgency of his father's voice, gets up early in the morning, travels 6 to 8 hours on feet to give his brothers food. When he gets there, Goliath is coming out. He came out 40 times. Every single time he came out, nobody stood up to him. Not even Saul, the king. But just so happened, David is giving his brothers food. And Goliath comes out, and he starts to taunt, and he starts to boast on who he is. And David, he didn't like that. David says, watch this. David says this. He said, who is this uncircumcised Philistine? And as much as we know this line, quote this line, deliver this line, if we're honest, that is not the most intimidating line. It sounds good, but that's just, who is this uncircumcised person from Carver Ranches? I'm talking about, what if I said that? What if you was in a fight and you say, who are you? You unchurch goer from Broward, from Pompano, from Lauderhill. Do that really mean anything? But what was David really saying? What was David really saying? David, watch this. It wasn't a matter of intimidation here. It wasn't a matter of intimidation that David was trying to do. David was trying to remind the Israelites who they were. He didn't say that to the giant. He said it to the Israelites. He said, who is this uncircumcised Philistine? The reason why he says and highlights uncircumcised, because those that are circumcised has the backing and the blessings of God. So why are you circumcised people acting like you are uncircumcised people? I'm not trying to intimidate the giant. I'm trying to ignite a fire in the believer to let them know who they are and the God they serve. Who is this uncircumcised Philistine? Because you got the backing of Jesus. You got the backing of your Father. You got all of heaven backing you up. Who? Who is this dude? Who is this guy? You must have forgotten who you are. And oftentimes when we find ourselves looking at the giant, it's because we've forgotten what the giant that's on the inside of us. Yeah, when we see ourselves looking at the problem, it's not because the problem is so big, it's that our God is too small. Who? And you got to be around people that is going to remind you not how big your giant is, but how big your God is. Yeah. You got to know the problem is big, but know your God is bigger. Greater is he that is on the inside of you. Are you around people that know, that can remind you not only of who you are, but who your God is? His brother heard him, his oldest brother heard him, and he gets angry. Somebody say he got angry. He got angry, but watch this. David shakes it off. He shakes it off, walks away, and goes to someone else that he can talk to. Sometimes it's best to love and leave them than to stay and be stuck with them. Watch this, because if you get stuck with them, you get stuck with their level of faith. And God will allow you to settle on whatever level of faith you're settled. God will allow you to live on whatever level of faith you settle for. So if they drag you down with their level of faith, listen, you're going to live on their level of faith. If you don't have enough faith, I'm sorry. You got to start saying, I'm sorry, I can't stay. I'll pray, but I can't stay. And some of y'all are too loyal because y'all loyal because you've been praying, but you don't know if you pray, that's what releases you to leave. I've already prayed. I've already did my due diligence. I already did what I needed to do as a Christian. I prayed for you, but I don't have to stay with you. If you refuse to fight, I'm sorry, I can't stay. If you insist on being defeated, I'm sorry, I can't stay. Because my future can't be tied to your fears. My future can't be tied to your frustrations. My future can't be tied to your lack of faith. David's speech was different. It was different so much so that even though it angered his brother, it intrigued the king. They said he was talking and they overheard him, and someone ran to the king and said, hey, it's this guy out here, and he's talking different. He's talking different. The scriptures 31 says, what David said was overheard and reported to Saul, and Saul sent for him. David gets in the court of the king, and he says, 32, let no one lose heart on the account of this Philistine. Your servant will go and fight him. Who in the world do David think he is? So Saul, being the intrigued king, he said, you are not able, 33, to go out against the Philistine and fight him. You are only a young man. at this time, David is about 15 to 17 years old. Wasn't even qualified to be in the army until you was 20. Who are you? Who do you think you are? You're too young. You don't even qualify. He said he has been a warrior from his youth. But I believe, watch this. I believe Saul wasn't trying to be discouraging by that question, because at the end of the day, Saul, he didn't really have to call him in. Saul called for David. Saul could have just heard what he said and kept moving because he was too young. He didn't have the stature. He was too short. But there was something about what David was saying that intrigued the king. So when Saul says, you're not able to get, you're not able to do this, it was more of, watch this, an investigative tactic than an interrogative tactic. Saul was investigating or trying to figure out, where did this young boy get all of this faith from? Because earlier in the text, it said everybody ran from the giant. Every Israelite ran from the giant. The king ran from the giant. Why? Why? And who is this boy that has all of this faith? Saul sensed something into David, even because he was a trained soldier. This young boy had something that he did not have. David began, after that, to testify. Yeah. David begins to testify, and he says this. Listen, he says, and that's number 2, we see he starts to testify of his skill. Yeah, so first we saw that his speech was different. Now we see that his skill was different. And this wasn't just a skill that David started testifying of. It was an acquired skill. See, the difference between just a skill and an acquired skill is that David wasn't born with this skill. This skill was birthed through a training ground. So David starts to testify, and he says this is not the first time I've been in a situation like this. I know I'm too young. I know that everybody is scared of the giant, and I know, but this ain't the first time I've been in this situation. The teenagers, I got skills. This ain't the first time, because there was a lion. When I was back in the wilderness keeping the sheep, and I killed it. There was a bear. And David starts to testify about the struggles that he had with the bear. But he was victorious from the bear, and he was victorious from the lion. Now, I start asking questions, because I like to ask questions to the text. I said, what do a lion and a bear have to do with the giant? Because at the end of the day, it's a little different from fighting animals and fighting people. Anybody ever been in a fight with an animal? Anybody ever been in a fight with people? Boy, y'all some fighters in here. Yes, last night. Okay. But just by imagination, we can kind of figure that fight would go a little different. You would think you needed a different set of skills to fight a lion, a different set of skills to fight a bear, and a different set of skills to fight a giant. So why would David bring up a lion and a bear to the king? I'm glad you asked. See, what happened is David's motive was never to kill the bear. David's motive was never to kill the lion. David's motive was only to save the sheep. I'm going to come. The lion and the bear was just an objective in a way with what he really wanted to do. He wasn't concerned about what he needed to attack. He was concerned about what he needed to protect. He wasn't concerned about the lion. The lion could have did whatever he wanted to do. But the lion messed up when he started messing with his sheep. The thing that had been given to him to protect. He wasn't worried about the lion until he started trying to kill what the Father had told him to protect. Question: what is the attack trying to keep you from protecting? The attack on your life, yeah. Just look, don't look back, just 2024. The attacks on your life, the attacks on your family, the attacks on your mind, the attacks on your soul, the attacks on your heart. What is it keeping you or trying to keep you from protecting? Think about it. Because when people attack you, when animals, we want to think about animals, lions and bears, when they attack, they don't attack to kill. They attack to demobilize. The first attack is not to kill you. The first attack is to pause you. The first attack is not to just slaughter you. The first attack is to suffocate you in your own blood. And some of you are wondering why your family members are your biggest enemy. It's because the enemy is trying to attack you because he's trying to suffocate you in your own blood. You're trying to figure out what the attack is all about. Look, you thought the enemy was after your relationship. You thought the enemy was after your job. You thought the enemy was after your house. You thought the enemy was after your money. That's important to him. He does not care about those things, but he know you care about those things. And if he get to those things, he can immobilize you, and you can be stuck. He's trying to stick you. He's trying to keep you from moving. He's trying to keep you stagnant. The attack is just smoke. Why are we so concerned about the attack? When the scripture has told us that we wrestle not against flesh and blood. But you tripping whole 2024 because about people ain't supporting you. And people lying on you. And people trying to manipulate you. And people don't see your value. And people won't share your status. And people won't validate you. And there's an assignment that is bigger. Watch this. Your assignment is always greater than your attack. It wasn't about a bear. wasn't about a lion. It was about the assignment. David was married to the assignment. He was committed to the assignment. He wasn't so caught up on the giant. He said, who is this uncircumcised Philistine that defies the army of God? You have to understand that he was anointed to protect the people of God. So when he hears a person that is defying the very army, the very people that he has been called to protect, there's something else rises up in him, and it's not about himself. Because I came to tell you, if you look through 2024 and all you see is a fight between you and your problems, you're in trouble. Because if it's just you and your problems, the fight is too fair. And it might win. It might win. But if the problem is with your problem and God, it don't stand a chance. Do you understand that your fight can't be you in the problem? It gotta be about the assignment that is on your life. It has to be something bigger than you. Scripture talks about in the last days we'll become lovers of ourselves. I don't know about you, but sometimes I feel like we're in the last days. Because everybody loves themselves so much, so it's very difficult to love anything else.